Hello everyone, it's Dr. Evans and welcome to EDL 683, Introduction to Qualitative Research. I'm going to be your instructor for this semester and I wanted to provide you with a brief introduction to the course. Just first of all, a little bit about the course. Intro to Qualitative Research is really an introductory level course, right? So I'm going to be trying to provide you with some background information about qualitative research, kind of giving you a historical overview. I'm showing you the Canvas site now. Want to give you a historical overview. I'm going to expose you a little bit to lots of different methodological approaches, but we're also going to spend a good chunk of the semester doing some really hands-on activities. So I want you to learn how to design a qualitative study. We're going to practice how to do observations. We're going to practice doing interviews. We're going to practice coding. I'm going to introduce you to some different software programs that you can use to help you with this. So we're going to be doing a lot of hands-on stuff when we're in class together. And then I've created it so that for the hybrid class, that a lot of the things that you'll be doing online is kind of in preparation for that time that we're going to spend together. One thing that I did want to note, kind of in contrast to the way that probably other people have taught this class or teach this class, is that we are going to be doing a group project where we're going to be able to practice these skills. I'm certainly willing to help support people as they do individual projects if they want to do that on their own time. Happy to help. But I don't assign you actually doing a qualitative research project. And the reason I don't do that is I just frankly, I feel like it's too rushed to be able to pull something off in 4 to 6 weeks. That's a lot to ask of you, and so I feel like it's better if I can structure and set up a project and kind of like help you get those skills and tools so that you can take your time and really do it right when you want to do your own projects. If you do have projects that you want to get started, though, I'm definitely available to consult with you and help you out. So let me give you an orientation to the class. You obviously landed here on this website, and I'm going to imagine that you saw our landing page. So on this landing page, when you log into the Canvas site, you'll see that we have some information for contact up here. I'm most accessible via email. I can typically get back to people within 2 business days. I also provided a link to my CV, so if you want to learn a little bit more about my research and the things that I'm doing, I am a qualitative researcher myself, so you can click on that and find some more information about me. You obviously figured out kind of get started, and that's how you ended up looking at this video. The other things that we have up here is there's an announcement tab, so every so often I might give a reminder about assignments or something, share a news story, something like that. So we have announcements there. And then the two tabs that you'll probably be using most are the syllabus. So that has all of the procedures in the class, kind of grading policies, attendance policies. It talks about the due dates, percentages, things like that. And then the weekly modules, that's where you're going to go to for the actual course materials. There are two required texts, which we'll talk about in a moment, but most of the materials are going to be contained within this particular website. At the bottom here on this landing page, you'll find a course schedule that I'm going to try and keep updated. You can click on these. These are active if you want to try and check out some of the assignments. And then I also provided some quick links to some key resources. We do have a shared Google Drive that I created for some kind of shared projects that we're going to be doing. Some resource videos that I've created for your benefit, some information, just some other good resources if you're trying to find out some information about qualitative research, and also our qualitative software package that we're going to be using, which is Deduce. So let's take a look at the syllabus first. If you click on that, it'll take you over to our course syllabus. So one of the things is that and important for this class is it's my understanding that at this point in time in the program that you've already completed the Miami University IRB training prior to the start of this class. If you've not done that already, you really need to get that training done quickly. We're not covering that material, and it is important because most qualitative researchers are going to be working with human subjects. So you can click there on that link if you need to follow up on that training. It does take quite a bit of time, so make sure that you get to work on that right at the beginning of the semester. Something else I just wanted to kind of lay out front is some working assumptions for the class. So both online and then where we're face to face, it's important that in our classroom environment that we respect one another. Given the nature of education and research, oftentimes different things come up that might be controversial, or people might have different opinions. And obviously, we're always going to be coming at this from our different life experiences. So we have to be willing to kind of enter that space and to kind of like think about others and also kind of challenge some of our own beliefs and ideas. So we need to be kind of like opening to thinking about some of the things that maybe we've taken for granted, or some assumptions, and try and change, or kind of like think about, it's okay to be comfortable, kind of think about different ways of doing things. I really want this to be a positive educational experience. So if there's something that you want to talk to me about outside of class, please let me know. I'm happy to hear your thoughts, your questions, and try and make this class as meaningful and helpful as possible. I wanted to discuss some of the required materials. So there's 2 required texts. We are going to be reading both of these books in their entirety. These books were selected because I think that they're pretty cost effective in comparison to other things on the market. I've also selected these texts because I think they're like really user-friendly guides. So if you end up doing qualitative research for your dissertation or for research projects, these are the types of books that you can go back to, and they're really good, quick references. The links that I've provided here will take you to the Miami University bookstore, but you can probably find these cheaper if you shop online and check out Amazon or something like that. We're also going to be using the qualitative software program Deduce. I didn't link to it here because I don't want you to purchase it yet. We're probably going to be using it in November. It's really cost effective. It's only about $12, but just so you know that that is going to be coming up. They charge by the month, which is different than other statistical or qualitative software programs. So you only get charged when you're actually using it. So I want to kind of limit our time that we're using the program to 1 month, so that we only incur a single charge. But hopefully it'll be something you guys find pretty helpful. And then finally, there is going to be an interview that you're going to practice. And then as a result of that interview, you're going to have to transcribe it. So actually write out the results of the interview. And that is something that you can pay for with your transcription. I use something called rev.com. A typical price for this is around $1 a minute. So if it's an hour interview, it might run you about $60. So I want to kind of give you a heads up about that. But you might be able to find a cheaper option. You might be able to find a friend, or it's always free. You can transcribe the transcripts yourself. So you can transcribe your own transcript and get that done. In fact, a lot of qualitative researchers, they prefer to transcribe their own interviews because they find that they get a kind of like a better sense of what that conversation was. They can almost start coding like right there in the moment. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about assignments. So we have 10% on attendance and participation. I take participation seriously, so it's not just a matter of showing up to the 7 classes, that we have to be in person there together, but also being active participants, especially in our small group work. We have lots of little small checkpoints and reflections. These have varying due dates, so just so that you're aware, make sure that you're being cognizant of when the due dates are, because they're not necessarily on the same day that we have class. These checkpoints are a way for me to gather information, or oftentimes a way for me to gather information to see how the class is going, to see where there might be areas that we need to spend a little bit more time. I'm also using these checkpoints and reflections. Sometimes you'll be asked to bring your reflections to class because you're going to be using them in small groups. So it's important that you stay on top of your assignments and that you complete them in a timely manner, because it's a courtesy to the instructor and to the rest of the students that you're going to have be prepared to participate in class. Next up, we have a resource folder. That's one of the earlier assignments that you're going to have this semester. Basically, you're going to track down, I think it's 3 different research articles in an area or a topic that is of interest to you. And we're going to create a large resource folder. So there'll probably end up being about 60 different articles in there. The idea is that you'll be able to go back to this resource folder when you're looking at trying to do your own qualitative research for some different ideas. If you're interested in narrative inquiry or phenomenology or case studies or something like that, you'll be able to find some examples in that folder. You're going to be turning in a concept map and research questions. This is going to be in support of your individual final research proposal that you're going to be doing. This is a way to kind of like think about theoretical frameworks. You're going to be submitting a methodological deep dive where you're going to explore one methodology in more depth than the others. I can only really give you kind of limited exposure to, there's such a variety of methods out there that this gives you a chance to really go in depth on something that you're interested in. And then there's 10% of your grade is going to be based on class research contributions. So we're going to develop an interview protocol in class. We're going to conduct interviews. We're going to upload those into Deduce, and we're going to practice coding that together. So these are all class research contributions that you're expected to participate in. And then finally, at the end of the semester, you will be working for about the last 7 or 8 weeks on a final research proposal that you'll submit. Like I said before, we're not doing research projects in the class. I think it'll be helpful for you to do the final research proposal. So after that, you can see the grading scale. As I point out above, sorry, I skipped the language there. Extenuating circumstances, late submissions are not going to be accepted, unfortunately, just because we really need these assignments accomplished in a timely manner. What I can tell you is that these assignments are not major assignments. There's no really long research papers like you might have in other classes. So I'm hoping that you're going to be able to stay on top of it. It's a little bit about my attendance policy. If you have a disability and you require services or accommodations, I'm happy to do that. I can't make accommodations retroactively, so please let me know if there are accommodations that you need, and I'd be happy to provide that for you. In the syllabus, I do provide a course schedule overview here. You can see we have the weeks, and then the topics that we're going to be discussing, and then the assignments, and I've provided the due dates here. I don't actually have the materials that we're going to be covering, so when you go into the modules, that's where you're going to find that information. So you'll find everything that you need to read, but I thought it would be helpful for you to kind of see an overview here. And then finally, academic dishonesty policy. Obviously, as a researcher, as an aspiring researcher, academic integrity is very important. I've provided the information from the Miami Student Handbook. One of the things that I wanted to highlight, because this probably doesn't come up in a lot of other classes, is that fabrication. So the falsification, invention of data. So that's considered an act of academic dishonesty as well. So if you were to like manufacture, for example, an interview, like you forgot to do the assignment and you basically came up with like a fake interview with somebody, that's actually considered an act of academic dishonesty. So it's not just limited to things like plagiarism. Kind of overgoes or discusses suspected dishonesty, stuff like that, the kind of the policies and procedures for that. Hopefully that will not be an issue in this class. So I'm going to go back up to the top here. I'm going to click on the home page, and it brings us back to this landing spot. So we've looked at Get Started. You're in it. We looked at the syllabus. I discussed the announcements. And the final thing that I want to show you is the weekly modules. This is where you're going to be spending most of your time. So you started off in this section of navigating EDL 683. Next up, you're going to be working on the Introduction to Qualitative Research online module. I put the date up there, August 29th. The first thing that you want to do is click on Introduction to Qualitative Research. That's going to give you an overview of the module. I've listed the different learning objectives for that particular module. I provide a little weekly overview video where I discuss these learning objectives, and I discuss kind of my rationale for what I've included and what I'd like you to do. But I've basically written out the same thing below in the to-do checklist. So you can go through and see the different assignments. It tells you what order I'd like you to do things in, and then I point out like the different assignments at the bottom, the things that you need to complete. So in this case, your checkpoint or reflection is due on September 2nd. So even though class is on August 29th, your first checkpoint and reflection is not going to be due until the following week. And each of the different modules that you go into are going to be set up just like this. So there's going to be a lot of consistency there. If you go back, though, to those modules You can also just kind of work your way through. So the same things are there. So here's read. So you're going to click on that. That'll bring you to the article. Everything is permalinked, so that provides people who might need help with software that kind of reads articles for them or things like that. That's why I provided these permalinks. I've provided headers here. So this is when you're reading from the book. So FQR is Fundamentals of Qualitative Research. So that means you're going to be reading the first chapter. You're going to be watching a video lecture. This is just an additional resource that I've provided. And then your assignment is typically at the bottom. So I have loaded up the course. You can see that all the different modules are filled. I put up what's online, when we're face-to-face with that particular schedule. So there's a couple different places where you can find that information. I hope that this is really straightforward. I've tried to make this as easy and user-friendly as possible. There's a real logic to the way that I've set things up. So it's kind of like, when you're a kid, you line up the dominoes and everything starts to kind of tip over. So, we might have some bumps along the way, but just let me know if you're finding anything confusing and I'll be happy to help you. So that ends our course orientation. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me, but I'm looking forward to meeting everyone in person and looking forward to having a great class with you this semester.